Classical Conversations presents Refining Rhetoric with CEO Robert Bortons, a podcast where faith, business, politics, and classical education meet. Join us as we use the classical tools of rhetoric to seek truth in every arena of life.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Refining Rhetoric. Today, my guest is Joey Odom. Joey is a co-founder of Arrow. Arrow was built by and designed for families who feel the tension around smartphones and screen time. I know our family has that tension all the time. But prior to founding Arrow, Joey was an executive in commercial real estate, and he has a co-founder, Heath Wilson, and they realized that cell phones were distracting them from the most important things in their life, their families. And he's famous for saying, when you change your relationship with your phone, you change your relationship with everyone around you, including yourself. And they recently relocated to Knoxville, Tennessee from Atlanta with his wife and two kids. So Joey, welcome to the show.
Robert, it's so good to see you. Thanks for having us. Looking forward to having a fun discussion today.
I know occasionally I'll look up from the dinner table and my wife's giving me a dirty look and she's asking me what I think. So what do you think I should do? And so might benefit from hearing your story and what you all have done to kind of ease that tension and create some good habits. But what was that moment in time when you realized you couldn't continue down this path of cell phone addiction? And what was that experience like?
Yeah, and real quick, I'll just go back. When your wife asks you that question and you have no idea the answer, here's my recommendation. When she says, hey, well, what do you think I should do? And you've been totally tuned out, you just say, just pray about it. That's just, that's always a safe answer. Just say, just pray about it. That covers everything. So but to answer your question, Robert, this is something, you said your family struggles with this. This is attention. That just means you're a normal family, right? In 2024, that just means, because we're all struggling with this to some degree. And I think back 11 years, my son Harrison, who is literally 2 weeks away from turning 16, which is terrifying, but when he was 5 years old, he was playing in his very first soccer season, and Harrison's the sweetest kid in the world. And therefore on the soccer field, not necessarily racking up the goals, because that's usually the really aggressive kids who are really getting all the goals and getting all the action. So Harrison hadn't scored all year. Everybody on the team had scored a goal except for him. And so this particular Saturday afternoon, which was just an ordinary Saturday afternoon, all of a sudden something really extraordinary happened. And I remember this moment, or I can picture this moment really like a movie scene, like slow motion, cue the dramatic music. Harrison rears back his leg. He kicks the ball and the ball rolls over the grass into the back of the net for his very first soccer goal. And all the parents on the team knew that this was the last kid on the team to score a goal. So everybody goes crazy. His coach goes and picks him up, but Harrison did something, this little split second, Robert. It was right after he scored the goal, right before his coach picked him up. He turned to the sidelines to share this moment with me, to see the smile on my face and to see the pride on my face. And it really was just a totally magical moment, except for the fact that I missed all of it. That when Harrison looked over at me, all he saw was the top of my head because I was looking down at my phone. And to this day, people say, hey, you must have been doing something really important. I have no idea what I was doing on it. It could have been a group text. It could have been a funny video. Who knows what it was? But I do know this, that when he looked over at me, he didn't get to share that moment. And he swears that he doesn't remember it, which is great. I probably don't have a therapy bill coming up for him for that. But I did realize at that second, and unfortunately, this is one of many moments like this where I said, something doesn't feel right. This relationship I have with my device, that I can't even put it down for an hour-long soccer game, that's a real problem. And the real problem isn't necessarily that I have my phone or I'm looking at my phone. It's that it's getting in the way of something more important, that my relationship with my son, a top 3 relationship in my life between my wife, my daughter, and my son, it was crushing that. It crushed that moment. And I just realized, hey, something's got to change. Something has to look different. And it leads you to a question of, can anything be different? Is this just how normal feels? Is this just normal life right now? But I knew that tension, something had to be done about it.
Yeah, my wife calls my cell phone my third arm sometimes. And I've definitely been trying to be more intentional on my own. Like I keep it on silent almost all the time if I'm at home, or I'll
Mm,
even just like try to put it somewhere where it's in a different room and then
yeah.
spend like 15 minutes trying to find it when I like, I do need my phone right now. I can't remember which room I hid it in. So one of the stories you hear about just, dads in particular in our kind of demographic with the homeschooler, since they're typically the ones providing the opportunity to homeschool, uh, but even moms too, to some aspects of it as well. They're just super busy, trying to stay connected, see what's going on. And you hear this story, and you have something similar, a real life example of this, but you hear a kid who's wanting to spend time with his dad, and he asks his
Yeah.
dad, like, how much money do you make? And he
Mm,
goes like, why, son? And he's like, I just want to know. And he tells him he makes $40 an hour, $20 an hour, whatever the number is. And then a couple weeks later, the kid's been doing his chores and getting his chores money, and he goes up to his dad and says, here's $40. Can
mm.
you spend an hour with me? But you had a similar story, didn't you, when your son uh, was in fifth grade? So tell us a little bit about this real life story that I think just piggybacks on this fictional story
Yeah.
of just the desire of our children to be with us.
Well, this is a personal story for my co-founder Heath, which was a moment for him when during Christmas time. So Heath's background, my business partner, he had built and built a great business, a financial tech business, and you know, for him, his phone was really all about productivity. And this is, I'm pouring myself into work, and so at Christmas, his son came home with a Christmas project they had done, and the teacher had asked, hey, what would you, if you could give your parents anything, what would you give them? And his son said he would give his dad the gift of family time. That he did. And this is, exactly this story. And by the way, this is something that I think we can all feel. We all have these moments where we have that. And Heath told that story. He saw that and he thought, gosh, is it really to that point where this is all my son wants, is just for me to have the gift of family time? And what's interesting, Robert, when we think about this stuff, when we talk about all of this, it's very easy. Maybe I'm looking at it obviously from a male perspective. It's easy to get really kind of beaten down by it in a way, and kind of begin to maybe even go down in a shame spiral or something like that. But I want to encourage everybody as they're listening to realize, one, everybody's going through this. Everybody is struggling with this to a degree. And the really cool thing about it is that we can do something about it. That I believe that this is the most hopeful opportunity any of us have as parents. Any of us have, not only just as parents, but in any relationship that we have. This is the greatest opportunity we have. And instead of becoming resigned to this, and this is why we started the business, was because, hey, I think the world can look different. We think that our relationship with our phones can change. And you're right. You mentioned moms of homeschoolers. We've heard, I would say that I think in terms of numbers, I think our membership is 2/3 moms initiate that membership, and it's largely the homeschool community. And we've heard, this is an interesting thing I've learned from moms. They've said that they, in some ways, this is kind of an odd, kind of like a harsh thing to say, but they find themselves almost resenting their kids sometimes, and they laugh when they say, because it's like, I'm resenting him because my kids are distracting me from my phone. And it's the self-aware. There's no more intentional group of people in the world than homeschool moms. I'm convinced they run the world, but they're the ones that say, okay, I need to change this. I need to do something. I need to do something about this, because my kids are very important to me. I don't like this feeling that I'm having, and I want to focus on them for these few hours right now, or these 15 minutes, or whatever it is. I got to be able to remove this distraction so that I can really fully focus on them. So we have those stories. Unfortunately, we have too many personal stories ourselves of moments we missed it. And we hear stories from people all across the country who are saying, hey, I'm struggling with this too. But then the great news is that we can do something about this. And it's the greatest opportunity we have in front of us.
Yeah, and I just want to take a step back, and like cell phones can help us be incredibly productive when used properly. Like I'm able to not have to be at work 60 hours a week because, in the morning or at night after the kids go to bed, I can shoot off a couple emails or do some things, or I can go on a family trip and be away for a few days, but just hop on to make sure there's no fires going out. So it does allow you to be more intentional if you're using it intentionally and not as a distraction from life around us, but using it as a tool that's intentional. So RO, when y'all start, and really what does it do? So why would families want to use RO instead of some other mechanism like putting it in a cardboard box or
The basic premise is that our relationship with our phone is really the key issue here, is that we have built this relationship, and again, that which is a little bit bizarre to think of adults having a relationship with an object. That's another tangent, but it's a little bizarre. We have a relationship with an object, and then the fact that we do means that, hey, we need to edit this, and the reason why is because it is damaging our relationships, and the key kind of distinctive factor in our relationship with our phones is the fact that it's with us all the time. So, and I know this sounds basic, but the statistics tell us that 91% of us have our phones with us 24 hours a day. They are, to your point, they are our third arm. They're the things that are always with us. And that becomes a problem because when they're with us all the time, we interact with them all the time. In fact, 89% of our smartphone usage is self-initiated. We are the ones who are initiating contact with our phones, and it's because they're with us all the time. And because they're with us all the time, we're interacting with them, we're dependent on them. So we grow this real dependencies and even false dependencies to make us think that we need to have them with us all the time. So we call that proximity interaction dependence. We call that the PID cycle, PID, the PID cycle. We're proximate to them, we interact with them, we're dependent on them, which leads us to be proximate to them even more. So with that as a background, we said, can we get these phones away from us? And again, this sounds very basic, but can we get these phones away from us? So how would we do that? Well, we started with basically like exactly what you said, a cardboard box. Let's put them in a cardboard box, which works to some degree. I mean, all of us have shoe boxes and all of us have drawers that we can put our phones away. But the missing link there is we need to kind of gamify, get some credit for the time that we're away from our phones. So the platform we've designed is designed for families, exclusively for families. It's the only digital wellness solution designed for the entire family. And when you put your phone, if anybody's watching on video, you see over my shoulder here, this is the RO box. The RO box is a beautiful, really a home decor piece, fabric wrapped in white, a bamboo lid, a really beautiful thing that lives in your home. And underneath all that beauty, it's very smart. It's tech packed. So when you put your phone in the RO box, not only does it hold your phone, not only does it charge your phone, but when you drop it in there, it automatically connects to the RO app and it begins to quantify the amount of time that you're physically distant from your phone. So, and with that, you're able to do a lot of things. So you're able to kind of design the app experience to really gamify that experience of being away from your phone. So a couple things, very similar to like a fitness app, you can kind of connect your ring. If you say, hey, I have a goal to be away from my phone for an hour a day, you can kind of connect that ring and see, hey, I've done my hour a day, or you can see how many days in a row you've spent time physically distant from your phone. So you're building up a streak. You have leaderboards in your home where you can see if you know how you're doing compared to your family, make it kind of a fun competition. There are a bunch of other things the app does, again, to gamify this experience of being away from your phone. So it's the combination of that hardware along with the software, that software that gamifies it, that really creates the power. And so to your point, I would like to address when people say, well, why couldn't I just put it in a drawer? Why couldn't I put it in a box? We would highly encourage that. And if you are the type of person who's able to do that, we think that's a great idea for someone to do that. But it works very similar to, and in the same way, I mean, the answer is simple, just like anything. If you want to, lose a little bit of weight, what do? You burn more calories than you take in, right? You move more than you move more, you eat less, which is a basic concept, but it's very difficult. So while we can burn calories for free, while we can build muscle for free, you can run around your neighborhood, you can do push-ups, you can do that for free. Yet a lot of us belong to gyms because gyms help us remove the friction of doing something difficult but valuable. And this is the same exact thing. RO is for the type of person who says, hey, I've tried to do this on my own. I've tried this. I've tried to do the drawer thing. I can't quite do it. I need a little bit more help. That's really who RO is for. And the key, Robert, for us, The term RO means to notice, to turn towards. That's our goal for anybody listening to this today. This is not a product pitch in any way. This is for somebody who says, hey, I want to notice my family more. I want to turn towards the people who are most important to me. So we believe whether you join RO or not, whether you buy RO or not, we're not that concerned about that, because we think that everybody can participate in a lifestyle of RO, a lifestyle of notice, a lifestyle of turning towards the things that are most important to us. And if you're one of those people who says, hey, I'm struggling with this and I need a little help, that's who RO is designed for. And the fun thing is we have literally thousands of stories of people who are saying, hey, this actually has changed my life. So it is a powerful solution that really uses technology to help us solve this tech problem that we all have.
Hey everyone, the Copper Lodge Library series has a new book out, The Secret Garden. It is a beloved classic novel. It has footnotes that will really help you understand what's going on in the novel, understand word definitions, really brings the reading to another level for you and your students. Christian themes in The Secret Garden include redemption, love, the importance of community, and the foreword reminds us to approach life with wisdom. It is a wonderful read aloud for your younger students and a piece of the curriculum that you will encounter with your challenge students as well. So go to copperlodgelibrary.com or the classicalconversationsbooks.com to get your copy today. Again, that's copperlodgelibrary.com to see the complete collection. Now let's get back to the show. So I wanted to reflect on something you said at the beginning over there. It's a relationship with an object. And I just immediately thought about, I have a 3-year-old, he'll be 4 by the time this recording comes out, but all of our kids have had blankets that their grandmother has knitted for them. And at some point we've had to lose the blanket, right?
Yeah.
Or, a lot of kids maybe grow up with their favorite teddy, and that's a relationship that an infant has or a toddler has with an object. An adult should have relationships with people, and obviously cell phones can help with that relationship when used in a healthy way. So that was just kind of an insight that I just had, and I wanted to share with the listeners or those watching on YouTube. And then the other thing that I just thought about growing up was I didn't have a cell phone until I was 18 years old and in college. And we used to, free minutes after 9 p.m., 100 text messages a month, right? Uh, if you're, under the age of probably 30, you have no idea what I'm talking about. But we used to call people when I was a teenager and be like, all right, we're going to meet at the mall at Abercrombie and Finch at 3 p.m. on Friday. And you would call them on a landline, and then you would drive 20 minutes to the mall, walk into whatever store you're going to meet them at, and pray to the Lord that they actually decided to show up. So tell us a little bit about what you've seen in the psychology of our use with phones versus and expectations we've put on ourselves in society to be accessible at all times and to maybe respond immediately, and how we can maybe overcome some of those ideas, or just what have you seen? You're not maybe a trained psychologist.
It's an interesting thing, Robert, because when we talk about phones, again, me growing up in the 80s and 90s, it's very easy to look back with a certain level of nostalgia, but man, that was very inconvenient to do the 3 o'clock Abercrombie and Fitch meetup, right? Like that was there's a way that our phones, in many ways, like they have enhanced our lives in such amazing ways. They are really great for us. So none of this is this anti-cell phone crusade in any way. This is really because we believe that this is something that's part of our lives, that we need to learn, how can we use this well? How can we use it as a tool instead of us being used as the tool? Right. And so, but you're right. We have this level of expectation, and it's almost like, and I'll go back. I'll make the tie-in between what you said. What you said was really, really insightful on the blankies that kids have, and what those objects for young kids. There's a term for that we use to describe. Those are called transitional objects. In another term for them, they're called comfort objects. And so when children are young, what they'll do is they'll cling to those objects, those comfort objects, those transitional objects, and they cling to them in the absence of their real security, in the absence of relationship. So, in other words, when their parents leave the room, a child will cling to a teddy bear or a pacifier or a blanket to give them this false sense of security, to make them feel like, okay, I'm safe because my real safety has left. You know what I mean? So they're clinging to this object. And those are really helpful things because at some point, the children, like you said, the children will realize at some point, oh, I can do this on my own. So that blanket has provided a certain transition for them into independence. Now, what we're doing with our phones, we're doing the exact opposite. They're reverting us back to adolescence, back to childhood, which is very weird. We're clinging to these objects, this phone. And the difference is where we were clinging to a blanket in the absence of relationship, in the absence of security, we're clinging to these things in the presence of relationship, in the presence of security. We're responding to a thousand other people at the dinner table when real relationship is right in front of us. We're being more available to people who aren't in front of us, to people who are on our text messages. We're being more responsive to other things, except to the detriment of the people right in front of us. And so the catastrophic effects that's having, you think about a child even coming in, there are plenty of studies that talk about the value of eye contact with an infant, with a mom, for example, maybe breastfeeding, that eye contact and the talking to them and how valuable that is. Those kids come out with such a natural need for connection. And here we are, we're inserting this unnatural device in front of their natural need for connection. And so we are seeing the detrimental effects. This generation, Jonathan Haidt just released a book called The Anxious Generation, which is tremendous. And it talks about this, how we have a generation of kids who's feeling so anxious because they have, I believe, he doesn't say this is my quote, because this generation of kids, 15, 16, 17 years old, this is a generation of kids who's grown up with parents who have looked at a screen instead of their eyes. And so what kind of resilience does that build? What foundational sense of value does that build in a kid? And so if we can, and I'm a firm believer in this, Robert, a lot of people are saying, hey, we need schools to ban phones. And that's a very good idea. I totally agree with that. Hey, we need, the Surgeon General said we're in a public health crisis. Yes, I totally agree. We also have a tendency to blame our kids for it. We have a tendency to blame our spouses for it. But what if, for a second, each one of us listening today said, this is on me? What if we said, I can do something about this? What if we have 4 ways that you can change your relationship with your phone? And the very first one is start with yourself. Start with yourself. And if everybody, just imagine this, if everybody, instead of blaming others, instead of waiting on the schools to ban them, instead of waiting on others, what if we said, this is my personal responsibility? I'm going to start with myself. Because when it comes to parenting, the historical model over the last 15 or 16 years since smartphones, we've done what we call the 3 M's. So we have said, as parents, we have modeled a bad relationship with our phone. That's the first M. We've modeled the bad relationship with our phone. We give our kids a phone someday, and what do? They mimic what we've modeled. They mimic that bad relationship. And then we do something absolutely crazy with the third M. We get mad at our kids for mimicking what we have modeled to them. And that's a real problem. What if instead we took the personal responsibility and said, no, I'm going to be the change that I'm looking for here? What if we modeled a good relationship with our phones? What if then our kids mimicked that good relationship? And then just imagine this, then we could make memories, or we could make magic, or whatever other cool M you want to put in there in the third one. But it all begins with starting with yourself. And if we do that, I think this world, I think culture, I think society could look entirely different.
Well, we love alliteration here at Classical Conversation, so you're making a lot of moms' hearts melt right now. And you really described the classical model with that 3 M's process that we see. And this is obviously the negative consequences of parenting non-intentionally. So I've definitely seen, as my kids get older, the need to put the cell phone down more and be more of an intentional parent, an intentional family. And of course, it's hard to be more intentional than a homeschooling parent, as you've kind of sacrificed some things to do that. But what does it mean when you all think of an intentional family? What are some characteristics that you see?
Yeah, I mean, to me, intentionality always begins with presence. To me, there is the older I get, Robert, the more I realize that you can get a lot of things right, and you can blow it all with the lack of presence. You know, I can have an hour long conversation with my daughter, and all it takes is a glance at my phone, and I lose the whole hour. I lose the whole moment. If she's opening up to me, there's no greater intimacy killer than a phone snub. If I just look at that phone while she's opening up, that's going to kill the moment. So I think you can get a lot of things right, and it can all be killed with a lot of lack of presence. I also think you can get a lot of things wrong. I've made a lot of mistakes as a dad, and I've made a lot of mistakes as a spouse. And I think you can make up for all that by just being there, just that full presence. So to me, it begins, that's the prerequisite. It's like you can't do anything else that's good unless you're fully present. And again, the greatest distraction to that is our phones. I know it sounds so simplistic, it sounds so crazy, but because we can carry them around with us all the time. Like people ask why we don't focus on laptops and iPads. That's a problem too, but it's the fact that these are so portable that they're with us all the time. So to me, the baseline is, hey, we got to be fully present. And then the fun thing from there is you can begin to kind of form your own story of what's important to you. So we love, and I'm sure a lot of your people love, we love the organization 1000 Hours Outside. I don't know if you've heard of them, Ginny Urich. They're just fantastic, and they have this goal to let's spend as a family 1000 hours outside every year, or just to get the principle behind it of spending some unstructured free playtime. That's another one where you say, hey, I think intentionality surrounds that. Like, hey, let's go be outside together. Let's go do that. And then, we love as a family, we love going out to dinner and having great conversations and having good meals. We love traveling, even if it's just locally here in Eastern Tennessee. We love doing that sort of thing. So the cool thing about intentionality is that it really is a choose your own adventure. You can write that own story. But for me, the foundation of all of that has to be an elimination of distractions and being fully present in the moment.
Well, tell us, you gave us a little hint on the 4 ways to change your relationship with your kids, and I don't wanna give them all the details here, but you have a website as well as a podcast, so if, people are enjoying this, as I am for sure, what is your website? How can they connect more and learn more about this, great research that you all have done?
Yeah, you can go to goaro.com, goaro.com. RO, we want that to be a verb for you. Go out and notice. So that's why we put go RO. We want it to be an active thing that we're doing. Go out and notice the world around you. Have a conversation with your spouse. Be really fully present with your kids. Jump with them, laugh with them. So goaro.com. We do have a special offer for Classical Conversations families as well. I'm sure you can put that in the show notes as well. But because we want families to win here, we want this to be a real win. And if you're somebody who said, "Hey, this is something I'm struggling with. This is something I need some help on. This, and I really can say it with full conviction. This actually will change your life. This will change your family culture because you're taking that step." And there's a trusted system that helps you not have to rely on your self discipline and willpower, but creates the environment that will help you thrive.
Yeah, you told us about the box. Just give us a quick, 30-second, 60-second rundown on what you get if you do become an RO family.
Yeah, great question. So what you do, so you'll pay RO as a membership. This is something that you join, and when you do it under our current pricing structure, you can do a 1 or 2 year membership. And when you do that, you get full access to the RO app. So you get all the gamification that goes along with it. RO also, when you're on the go, you can have an RO session, initiate an RO session with what we call an RO flip. So that software, you don't actually even need the box when you're on the go. So you can use the RO flip for that. And when you join RO, you will get an RO box that comes along with it. We'll charge your phone. It'll hold your phone. It's a beautiful home decor piece. So you get all of that for that membership. That pricing structure is going to change a little bit later this year, where the app and the box will be priced separately. So actually, the more cost effective way is right now before that pricing change happens. So the software and the software and the hardware, the RO box comes all along with the membership today.
Excellent. And if you really enjoy it, I hear there's an ambassador program that you can join
Yeah.
as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. On the website, you can look into the ambassador program, people who've just experienced it, who want other families to help other families win. And it's really fun. You can go to our ambassador section and see the families who are part of that. And again, that's kind of a really kind of your Delta Force group of families who, again, are here to help other people experience what they've experienced and help them win in their families.
Well, thank you, Joey, for coming on the show today. We want to help families win. That's why we do this podcast. That's why we create communities all over the world. And if you can just give your website one more time, and is there any social media platforms that you are active on if someone wants to connect with you all and learn more?
Yeah, 3 ways to connect. First is through goro.com. You can follow us on Instagram at @GoRONow. Yes, we're on Instagram. I know that sounds a little funny, but at @GoRONow. And then you mentioned the RO podcast, where we have conversations with intentionality experts to help you kind of have the tools so you can go out and win.
Awesome. Well, go check it out. Go to goro.com today and check out our link in the show notes for some special opportunities for our listeners. Wow, I really enjoyed connecting with Joey today. I know that you did too. He is an intentional father and has his mission to help us all become more intentional, having a proper relationship with our phones so we can have a great relationship with our families. They are actually going to give our listeners $15 off an annual subscription or $36 off a 24-month subscription. You can go to our website, refiningrhetoric.com/RO. That's refiningrhetoric.com/ARO. Go check it out. Go listen to their podcast and continue listening to ours. God bless.
Thank you for listening to Refining Rhetoric with Robert Bortons. Want more? Make sure to subscribe so you won't miss an episode. You can also follow us on social media to continue the conversation, and visit classicalconversations.com/rhetoric to find out how you can join a local homeschool community.